everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you here at this PSN event. My name is Jennifer Arnold. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Squiz, and today I'll be talking to you about improving digital services to drive better citizen experiences. As you know, for many months, online channels have been the primary, if not only, means available for people and organizations to engage. So digital services have become the heartbeat, keeping society, government, education, and the economy functioning. But with circumstances changing so widely and rapidly, the need for informational digital channels to keep people up to date and well-informed has been critical, while the need to provide transactional services online, such as submitting claims, making payments, or booking appointments, has skyrocketed. Now, our customers include government entities just like yours at all levels, for whom we build websites, apps, intranets, and portals. And they've been under pressure like never before to improve their citizen services. As I'm sure you all know, what citizens need from government engagement and services to feel generally secure and confident, whether those services are online or offline, is that they're easy to use, reliable, secure, accessible, and personalized. But now, citizens expect and prioritize these attributes even more post-COVID, since they're much more reliant on government for employment, financial, and healthcare support, to name just a few areas. But the pandemic has also added to some of these expectations and created a whole new set of challenges for Marcoms and digital teams. The first is the need for speed. In some cases, such as changing lockdown circumstances or changes to JobKeeper or job seeker type programs, you need to update citizens immediately as rules and regulations change. But the second is increased need for support, because more people have more questions about more complex matters. And when dealing with government digitally, they still expect to receive those answers clearly and those solutions quickly. Now, why am I so focused on digital services? Because delivering services that hit all of these experience attributes is critical to improving trust. And trust is critical to ensuring that citizens are open to engaging with you in the first place, and that they're actually going to use the digital services and channels that you want them to. But also so that you can get them to share more personal data with you, so that you can gain even more insight to create more appropriate policies and services for them, and that they're more open to that digital nudge that's going to get them to change their behavior. But the big issue is government trust is eroding at the same time we need it the most. So the need to get these services right is more critical than ever. In fact, a recent McKinsey survey revealed some interesting insights. Citizens are 9 times more likely to trust a government agency if they're satisfied with its service. And they're 5 times more likely to agree that a service is a good investment of taxpayer money. However, dissatisfied citizens are twice as likely to contact agency hotlines and to publicly express their unhappiness through social media or calls to politicians. And all of this also has a direct impact on their behavior. In my previous life, I was doing some consulting and running research on citizen experience. And one of the studies I did found that just over half of 4,000 Australian citizens surveyed who use digital services still preferred to conduct transactions or inquiries in person or by phone. Why? Trust has a lot to do with it. Trust issues around the security of their data, around how that data is going to be used for appropriate reasons, and even just that the technology is actually going to work. In fact, when I was talking to the New Zealand Inland Revenue Department at one point, they told me that around tax time, one of the highest percentages of their calls to their call center was just for citizens to confirm that an online tax submission had been received on their end, even after the citizen had received confirmation of that transaction. So obviously, trust had been lost at some point. So where do we stand now in terms of getting citizens to engage digitally and have channels and services that hit all of these necessary experience attributes to create that citizen trust? So recognize that government has been on this digital services journey for many years now. And government Marcoms teams have been shifting engagement to digital channels heavily as well over that time. And of course, no one here is a stranger to disruption. Really, it's par for the course for all of us in this digital Marcoms game. But who here was prepared for disruption of this scale, for something to happen that so fundamentally changed our day-to-day lives? So when COVID hit, it really exposed some gaps in how we operate. Speaking to our customers, they were telling us that they found that they were too reliant on the offline channels for engaging and servicing their citizens. They found that they were working in silos and that they were having data that wasn't being captured centrally, and they had messaging that wasn't aligned across all of those channels. And a big issue was not having teams with the resources or skills that were enabling them to move quickly enough, but at the same time, not having systems and processes that could adapt quickly to change the way that they were communicating and delivering services. They also couldn't scale to meet that increased need for online interactions. And those interactions they were having weren't getting tied back into their systems of record, things like their CRM, their marketing automation tools, customer service and support systems, to be able to get that accurate single data source or better customer profiling. Now, government bodies did a great job in the initial response to getting information out quickly when COVID hit, but now we're seeing they're starting to focus much more on the longer term transformation. And in fact, a lot of them we talk to see COVID as a catalyst that now allows them to do that transformation and build the capabilities and tools they wish they'd had, and maybe they'd even been planning for, but didn't have that strong enough business case to take action previously. So how do we see organizations now trying to overcome these gaps to build better digital engagement and services? I'll share with you what some of our global government customers are prioritizing right now. Data and security, privacy has become absolutely paramount, because to get this wrong, it's going to be really difficult for you to get past it, even if you hit the mark on every other aspect of good digital experience. And it's not just about the tech. For the Marcoms teams, it's about how you approach this and how you communicate. Context is really critical. This is the line between appropriate and creepy. So the data that you ask them for needs to be relevant to the service you're going to provide. So for instance, if you're providing emergency services, asking their location is absolutely appropriate. If you're trying to get them to pay a fine, asking for their location might send up some red flags. Consent and control is also really important. So asking consent to gather the data and giving them some control over how you're using it and storing it. Things like giving them continuous opt-in and opt-out, and giving them a choice as to when they transition from being an anonymous user on one of your channels to a known user. A lot of this also comes down to transparency about why you need the data, how it's going to be used, who it's going to be shared with, and not just transparency around data, but also around the process. How are you making decisions? How are transactions being handled? How are their transactions and inquiries progressing? And finally, a really important thing is around giving them an individual identity in the government. They want to know that the insight that they're giving you is being reflected back into the services that you're providing and the policy you're setting. So having an identity and information that carries over between your different teams and channels, and in some cases, even between departments, is really important to them. They don't understand the distinction between different departments in many cases. And they also want to know that if they're entering information on your website, for instance, if they then ring your call center, that your call center team has information to that information that they've shared previously. So using data in the right way at the right time to provide citizens with the services that are of true value to them is going to go a long way to improving trust. And it's a virtuous circle. The more that you can get them to share the data with you, the more that you can use it to make those continued improvements, which is just going to deepen that trust anymore. So the other big area that government organizations are focused on is inclusion. And this has been the case for a long time. Inclusion around language, around disabilities, around access to technology, but also comfort with the technology is becoming really important. And the reality is that some people need extra help when it comes to certain services, especially when you have so many people using digital services for the first time due to COVID. Now, for some, digital services simply won't be the answer, and they're going to require offline services. So the key there is identifying who those people are right away and ensuring that they're directed to the right channels from the start. But when you do get people online, having informed and interactive guidance can be a powerful tool to nurture their confidence. So having things like more tutorials, more self-help tools, more chatbots, and being able to help with live help to intervene if needed. When you get the support right, it can be a really powerful tool for both citizens and for agency efficiency. I'll give you an example of Timaru District Council in New Zealand, where we worked with them because their citizens were really pushing for the ability to self-serve and manage their transactions online. But at the same time, the council was needing to find ways to provide more support more efficiently. So we worked with them to create chatbot Turbo Tim, who answers a whole range of customer queries 24/7 via decision tree script. And we also have website search integrated to handle any of those unanswered questions that Tim hasn't been able to jump onto. So the customer services team is continually evolving the script based on analytics and inquiries. And they're also using natural language processing and machine learning to just continue to improve that service. But as you can see from the stats here, a very simple example, a very simple tool has taken major pressure off the council team and is making their citizens happy because they're getting fast responses and getting their questions answered. So some of the other priorities that government organizations are looking at now is going back to that ease of use. So enabling citizens to finish transactions in a seamless fashion. And in many ways that starts with mapping that citizen journey from that citizen-centric perspective. Many federal and state departments have been starting to focus much more on life events, such as having a baby or hitting the point of retirement. So there's a lot to learn from those organizations. But really what it comes down to is making sure that citizens don't have to go to multiple sites or agencies to get relevant information or to complete a transaction. Now, there are challenges obviously in doing that. You need to break down the silos across agencies, but also for this team, you need to break down silos across Marcoms and the teams that are planning those digital services so that you're really planning ahead for how you're not only going to deliver the service, but also how you're going to get people to use it. Because we've had examples of a number of our customers where the digital transformation and IT teams were so focused on building the new service, they hadn't even thought about or hadn't even brought the Marcoms team in to engage around how are they going to get the customers to actually use those new services. Seamless interactions is also about using citizen data to improve service delivery. And again, this is where personalization comes into play, but this time it's about automation and making the transaction easier by having pre-populated information and content based on previous interactions and information the citizens supplied to you and to other agencies. And it's also about using data to make data-driven decisions to improve your service performance. What channels are people using to interact with you? And where and why do they swap from one to another? How long does it take for them to complete a transaction, and do they get stuck anywhere? Or do they abandon a transaction, and why? So if you can use that sort of data about the services you're providing and combine it with real-time direct feedback from citizens, you can find better ways to streamline your communication and services. And it's particularly important because the more you enable self-service, the more you need to consciously build those feedback loops in so you can keep close to the citizen and continue to make improvements that are going to suit them. Speaking of self-service, it's not just about citizen self-service. I mentioned one of the things that COVID has done was to increase the need for speed of engagements and speed of communication. And what we found is that our customers had flagged that their Marcoms and digital teams just weren't really set up to action things that quickly. So one change they're looking to make now is to better enable self-service for the Marcoms teams by giving them the technology that allows them to create more content, manage more channels, and make more edits or changes themselves so that they're less reliant on going to external agencies or to their IT team. And that's allowing them to move faster, but they're also finding that it's costing them a lot less. And on the note of doing more with less and moving quickly, integrations is obviously top of mind for this audience, given the proliferation of MarTech we've been grappling with for years. Something that's been top of mind, but previously it's sometimes been hard to find the resources or budget to address it. But COVID has again provided that catalyst for improvements. So we're now talking to many organizations about how they build an open, flexible environment that allows them to use best of breed MarTech tools so they're not locked into one ecosystem, and how they can also build new functionality and personalize experiences and better automate processes by integrating new solutions with existing MarTech and with their systems of record, so that they can do things like sharing social feeds on their websites or automating email responses from website or app inquiries and personalizing content by tapping into their CRM data. So for example, another council we work with in New Zealand, Selwyn District Council, integrated their COVID website and app with the notifications platform OneSignal. So now they can push out mobile, email, and in-app notifications to users who sign up for those via the site. So again, really simple sort of tool, really simple sort of integration, but really powerful for both the council in terms of engaging with their customers and for the citizens themselves in terms of getting information quickly. Now, with all of this, my big recommendation now we're through the initial craziness of COVID is to take the time to plan out these decisions. A lot of my previous consulting work in the citizen services area has been around rolling back, reassessing, and redoing services that were put online too quickly in that initial rush to digital transformation. Basically, just taking offline services and putting the content and services online without adapting it to the channels or citizen needs. We were seeing back-end processes that were still entirely manual and slowing everything down. We saw channels created where there weren't resources to support them, and a lot of technical debt because solutions were chosen that couldn't integrate. So highly recommend you take the time now to get this right, because it's clear that as we move into the new normal, these citizen expectations for authentic interactions, fast, accurate, relevant, and trustworthy information and services will only increase. So by meeting the needs around digital services, you'll be able to create more trust with your citizens to get better engagement and ultimately achieve those social and financial outcomes that you're looking for. Thank you very much for tuning in. After this event, we'll be sharing 2 new ebooks about digital citizen services with you that go into more depth around these topics and more. And also our website has a lot of relevant case studies, blogs, and recorded webinars speaking to the citizen experience. And do reach out if you have any questions. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.